Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he watched the mining laser cut through another section of asteroid rock. The heat from the industrial equipment made the already cramped mining pod feel like an oven. He had been doing this job for 12 years now, ever since the Zephyrian overseers assigned him to Kepler 442b. Every day was the same routine of breaking rocks and loading precious metals into transport containers. The mining platform shook as another explosion echoed through the asteroid field. Jake looked up from his controls and saw Dr. Lisa Carter approaching his station. Her face showed the same tiredness that all humans carried on this planet. The Zephyrians worked them hard and gave them little rest. Lisa stopped next to Jake's control panel and pointed toward the large asteroid they had been working on for the past week. Something was different about it. The rock formations looked strange, and the mineral readings were not matching what they expected to find. Jake Morrison had served in the Earth Defense Force before the conquest 300 years ago. He still remembered stories his grandfather told him about the great human ships that once sailed between the stars. Those were just stories now. The Zephyrians had made sure that humans forgot about their past glory. The mining laser hit something hard inside the asteroid. Instead of the usual cracking sound of breaking rock, they heard a loud metallic clang. Jake stopped the laser and looked at the readings on his screen. The scanner was picking up something that should not be there. Lisa moved closer to examine the scan results. Her eyes grew wide as she studied the data. The scanner was showing metal structures deep inside the asteroid. These were not natural formations. Someone had built something inside this rock, and it was enormous. Jake called over Ryan Blake, the resistance leader who worked as a transport operator. Ryan had been organizing secret meetings among the human workers for months. He always talked about fighting back against their alien masters, but most people thought he was just dreaming. When Ryan saw the scanner readings, his expression changed completely. He had seen these types of metal signatures before, but only in the old resistance files that he kept hidden. These readings matched the stories about human warships from before the conquest. The three humans worked together to carefully clear away more of the asteroid's outer shell. They had to be quiet about it because the Zephyrian guards watched everything. If their alien overseers discovered what they were doing, all three would be sent to the punishment mines on the dark side of the planet. As they dug deeper, they found more metal structures. The scanner showed massive corridors and chambers inside the asteroid. Whatever was buried here was not just a piece of debris. It was something much larger and more complex than anything the humans had seen in their lifetimes. Lisa ran her hand along a section of exposed metal. The surface was smooth and had strange markings carved into it. She recognized some of the symbols from her secret studies of pre-conquest human technology. These markings were definitely human in origin. Jake remembered something his grandfather had told him about the final battle for Earth. The old man had said that some of the greatest human ships had disappeared during the fighting. Everyone assumed they had been destroyed by the Zephyrians, but maybe some had escaped and hidden themselves. Ryan suggested they bring Elena Rodriguez to look at their discovery. Elena was only 19 years old, but she had an amazing ability to understand complex technology. She could fix machines that even the senior engineers could not repair. Some people said she had a gift for working with ancient human systems. When Elena arrived at the mining site, she immediately felt something strange. As soon as she touched the exposed metal, she could sense energy flowing through the structures. It was as if the metal was alive and waiting for someone to wake it up. Elena placed her hands on different sections of the metal surface and closed her eyes. She could feel patterns of energy moving through the buried structure. There were power systems down there, and they were still working after all these years. The four humans worked through the night to uncover more of the buried structure. They had to be careful not to use too much equipment, because the Zephyrian sensors would detect unusual energy usage. They used hand tools and small cutting devices to slowly reveal what lay beneath the rock. By morning, they had uncovered a section that was clearly part of a starship hull. The metal was unlike anything the Zephyrians used. It was stronger and had a different color. More importantly, it had human writing on it that none of them could read, but they knew it was from Earth. Lisa took measurements of the exposed section and calculated the size of the complete structure. Her estimates showed that the buried ship was massive, possibly larger than anything in the current Zephyrian fleet. If this was really a human warship, It would have been one of the most powerful vessels ever built. Jake realized they had found something that could change everything. For 300 years, humans had been told they were a weak and primitive species. The Zephyrians had convinced everyone that humans could never match alien technology, but here was proof that humans had once built ships that rivaled anything their conquerors possessed. Ryan understood the danger they were in. If the Zephyrians discovered this ship, they would either destroy it or study it to learn human secrets. Either way, the aliens would make sure that no human ever got near it again. They had to keep their discovery secret while they figured out what to do next. Elena continued to explore the metal surface with her hands. She could feel that the ship's systems were dormant but not dead. There was still power flowing through the structure, and it seemed to be waiting for something. She had the strange feeling that the ship was aware of her presence. The discovery of the buried ship filled all four humans with new hope. For the first time in their lives, they had evidence that humanity had once been powerful. They had found proof that their species was capable of building technology that could challenge the Zephyrian Empire. Now they just had to figure out how to use it. Elena Rodriguez pressed her palms against the cold metal surface of the buried ship. She could feel something stirring deep within the structure. Energy patterns that had been sleeping for centuries were beginning to respond to her touch. The sensation was unlike anything she had ever experienced before. Suddenly, lights began to flicker along the exposed section of the hull. Blue and white patterns traced across the metal surface like veins of electricity. Jake Morrison stepped back in amazement as the ancient technology came to life before their eyes. A deep humming sound emerged from within the asteroid. The noise was so low that they felt it more than heard it. The vibration traveled through the rock and into their bodies. Lisa Carter checked her instruments and saw that massive power systems were activating throughout the buried vessel. Then something extraordinary happened. A section of the hull began to shift and change shape. Metal panels slid aside to reveal an opening that had not been there moments before. Soft light spilled out from the interior, illuminating the faces of the four amazed humans. A voice spoke from within the ship. It was clear and strong, speaking in perfect English. The voice said that it was Admiral Marcus Stone, the command consciousness of the United Earthship Sovereign. The ship had been waiting for 300 years for humans to find it and wake it from its long sleep. Admiral Stone explained that he was not a living person but an artificial intelligence that had been created to command the ship. He carried the memories and personality of the original human admiral who had commanded the Sovereign. During the final battle for Earth, he had watched over the ship during its centuries of hiding. The AI invited them to enter the ship and learn about their true heritage. Jake led the group through the opening and into a corridor that stretched far into the distance. The walls were lined with displays showing information about the ship's systems and the history of human space exploration. Admiral Stone guided them to the ship's bridge, a massive chamber filled with command stations and viewing screens. The technology was far more advanced than anything they had seen in their lifetimes. Even the Zephyrian ships they had worked on seemed primitive compared to this human vessel. The AI began to tell them the truth about humanity's past. 300 years ago, humans had not been the weak and scattered people that the Zephyrians claimed. Instead, they had controlled an empire that spanned dozens of star systems. Human technology had been the most advanced in the galaxy. The United Earthship Sovereign had been the flagship of the human fleet. It was over 10 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. The ship had been built using technology that humans had developed through centuries of scientific advancement and strategic thinking. Admiral Stone showed them recordings of human cities on distant worlds. Massive space stations orbited around stars, and fleets of human warships patrolled the trade routes between colonies. Humanity had been a proud and powerful civilization that other species either respected or feared. The fall of the human empire had not come from technological weakness. Instead, it had resulted from internal conflicts and political divisions. Different human factions had fought against each other instead of working together. This civil war had weakened their defenses at the worst possible time. The Zephyrian Confederacy had been a collection of desperate alien species that were losing ground to human expansion. They had waited for the right moment to strike, and the human civil war had given them that opportunity. The aliens had attacked when humanity was divided and vulnerable. During the final battle for Earth, Admiral Stone had received orders to hide the Sovereign and wait for better times. The ship had used its advanced cloaking systems to disguise itself as an asteroid. It had drifted through space for 3 centuries, waiting for humans to rediscover their heritage. Lisa Carter examined the ship's technical systems and was amazed by their sophistication. The Sovereign had weapons that could punch through any known defense system. Its shields could deflect the combined firepower of entire enemy fleets. Most importantly, it had manufacturing systems that could build new ships and equipment. Admiral Stone explained that the ship required specific human genetic patterns to fully activate its most advanced systems. These patterns had been encoded into the ship's design to prevent alien species from using human technology against its creators. Only certain humans could access the ship's full potential. Elena discovered that she possessed the required genetic markers. When she placed her hand on the command console, new systems came online throughout the ship. Displays lit up showing weapon status, shield generators, and faster-than-light engines. The ship was recognizing her as its rightful commander. Tony Walsh, the chief engineer who had joined them, stared in disbelief at the ship's power core. The energy output was beyond anything he had imagined possible. This single vessel had more firepower than the entire Zephyrian patrol fleet that controlled their sector of space. Dr. Helen Ross, a xenobiologist who had been studying alien species, examined the ship's databases. She found detailed information about every known alien race in the galaxy. The humans of 3 centuries ago had possessed knowledge that far exceeded what their current captors understood about the universe. The ship began its repair and restoration process. Tiny robots emerged from hidden compartments and started fixing damaged systems. The nanotechnology was so advanced that it could rebuild entire sections of the vessel from basic materials. The Sovereign was healing itself after its long dormancy. Admiral Stone warned them that they were running out of time. The ship's awakening had created energy signatures that would eventually be detected by Zephyrian sensors. They needed to decide quickly whether to reveal themselves or find a way to hide their activities from their alien overseers. Jake realized that they were sitting on the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. The Sovereign alone could probably defeat any Zephyrian fleet sent against it, but more importantly, it represented hope for all of humanity. It was proof that their species had once been great and could be great again. Elena felt a deep connection growing between herself and the ship's consciousness. Admiral Stone was not just a computer program, but a guardian of human heritage. He had preserved the knowledge and capabilities that would allow humanity to reclaim its rightful place among the stars. The group spent hours exploring the ship and learning about its capabilities. Every new discovery filled them with greater amazement and determination. They had found the key to human liberation, but they would need to be very careful about how they used this incredible gift from their ancestors. As the ship continued to restore itself, Admiral Stone began planning their next moves. The Sovereign would soon be ready for action, but they would need human crews and support vessels. Most importantly, they would need to contact other resistance groups and prepare them for the revolution that was about to begin. Word of the discovery spread through the underground networks faster than anyone had expected. Ryan Blake used encrypted communication channels that the resistance had developed over years of secret organizing. Within days, human resistance cells across 3 star systems had heard about the incredible find on Kepler 442b. General Alex Kane arrived with a small fleet of hidden human vessels. These ships were old cargo haulers and mining vessels that the Resistance had secretly converted for military use. When Kane first saw the exposed section of the Sovereign, he could hardly believe his eyes. The general had spent 30 years fighting the Zephyrians with whatever weapons the Resistance could build or steal. He had never imagined that such a powerful human warship still existed. Standing next to the massive hull, he felt like a child looking up at a mountain. Admiral Stone welcomed the new arrivals and gave them a complete tour of the ship. General Kane brought his best engineers and tactical experts to examine the Sovereign's capabilities. What they found exceeded their wildest dreams about human technological achievement. Captain Nina Foster, a former Earth pilot who had been flying resistance missions for 15 years, was amazed by the ship's flight systems. The Sovereign could travel between star systems in hours rather than weeks. Its engines used principles of physics that the current generation of humans barely understood. Dr. Peter Grant, the Resistance's communications specialist, studied the ship's information systems. The Sovereign could coordinate fleets across entire sectors of space simultaneously. Its communication arrays were powerful enough to reach every human settlement in the galaxy at the same time. Commander Sarah Lynch examined the ship's weapon systems and could hardly believe the readings. The main antimatter cannons could destroy capital ships with single shots. The defensive shields could absorb the combined firepower of entire enemy fleets without sustaining damage. The Sovereign carried thousands of fighter craft in its massive hangar bays. Each fighter was equipped with technology that surpassed anything the Zephyrians currently used. A single squadron from the ship could probably defeat a patrol fleet of alien vessels. More resistance fighters arrived every day as news of the discovery continued to spread. Human slaves from mining colonies, factory worlds, and agricultural planets found ways to escape and join the growing force. Many had never believed that liberation was possible until they saw the Sovereign. Elena Rodriguez continued to explore her connection with the ship's systems. Her abilities grew stronger each day, as Admiral Stone taught her how to interface with the vessel's consciousness. She could now access parts of the ship that even the AI had not fully understood. The first test of the ship's power came when a Zephyrian patrol fleet detected unusual energy readings in the asteroid field. 3 alien cruisers approached the hidden base to investigate what they assumed was illegal mining activity. Admiral Stone activated the ship's defense systems for the first time in 3 centuries. The weapons that emerged from the asteroid's surface were unlike anything the Zephyrian crews had ever seen. The alien ships found themselves facing technology that was far beyond their understanding. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. The Sovereign's weapons cut through the Zephyrian shields as if they were made of paper. The alien ships were destroyed so quickly that they never had a chance to send a distress signal back to their command base. General Kane watched the battle from the ship's bridge and felt tears in his eyes. For the first time in his life, he had seen humans defeat Zephyrians in open combat. The resistance fighters cheered as they realized that their dreams of liberation might actually come true. News of the victory spread through the human underground networks like wildfire. Resistance cells that had been hiding for decades began to emerge from their hiding places. The proof that humans could defeat their alien masters gave hope to millions of enslaved people across the galaxy. Captain Foster led the first squadron of fighters from the Sovereign on a raid against a Zephyrian supply depot. The human fighters moved so fast and hit so hard that the alien defenders never knew what had attacked them. The depot was destroyed, and its supplies captured without a single human casualty. Dr. Grant established communication links with resistance groups on dozens of worlds. The Sovereign's powerful transmitters could reach farther than any Zephyrian communication system. Human cells that had been isolated for generations were suddenly able to coordinate their activities. Commander Lynch began training resistance fighters to operate the ship's weapon systems. Many of the volunteers had never seen technology this advanced, but they learned quickly. Their hatred of the Zephyrians gave them the motivation to master even the most complex systems. The Zephyrian High Command began to notice that their patrol ships were disappearing without explanation. Several supply convoys had been attacked by unknown forces using weapons that did not match any known resistance capabilities. The aliens started to suspect that something significant had changed. Admiral Stone warned that they were running out of time. The Zephyrians would eventually figure out what was happening and send larger fleets to investigate. The humans needed to strike hard and fast before their enemies could organize a proper response. Elena's connection with the ship continued to deepen. She could now sense other human settlements across the galaxy through the Sovereign's sensors. She felt the pain and suffering of millions of enslaved humans, but she also sensed their growing hope as word of the ship's discovery spread. Jake Morrison found himself serving as a liaison between the ship's crew and the resistance fighters. His experience with both military operations and civilian leadership made him valuable in coordinating the growing human forces. He helped organize supply lines and training programs for the new recruits. Lisa Carter worked with the ship's manufacturing systems to produce new equipment for the resistance. The Sovereign could build weapons, vehicles, and communication gear using raw materials from the asteroid field. The humans were quickly becoming better equipped than they had ever been before. The resistance began planning larger operations against Zephyrian installations. With the Sovereign as their flagship, they could now consider attacking targets that had previously been impossible to reach. Military bases, administrative centers, and even shipyards were now within their reach. General Kane realized that they were no longer just a resistance movement. With the power of the Sovereign behind them, they had become a legitimate military force capable of challenging Zephyrian control. The time for hiding in the shadows was coming to an end. The human forces were growing stronger every day. New volunteers arrived with each successful mission, and the ship's systems continued to come online as Elena learned to access more of its capabilities. The revolution that had seemed impossible just weeks before was now becoming inevitable. The Zephyrian High Command finally decided to reveal the truth about humanity's past. High Overlord Thexmar, the Supreme Commander of all Zephyrian forces, contacted Admiral Stone directly through quantum communication channels. His message would change everything the humans thought they knew about their history. Thexmar appeared on the main screen of the Sovereign's bridge as a tall, thin creature with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His large black eyes showed a mixture of fear and resignation. He had been alive during the original conquest of Earth and remembered what humans had been like before their defeat. The alien overlord began to speak in perfect English, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of hidden truth. He told the assembled humans that everything they had been taught about their past was a carefully constructed lie designed to keep them from discovering their true heritage. 300 years ago, humans had not been a primitive species that the Zephyrians conquered out of superiority. Instead, humanity had been the dominant power in the galaxy, controlling an empire that spanned hundreds of star systems and commanded technology that made them nearly unstoppable. The Zephyrian Confederacy had originally been a collection of desperate refugee species fleeing from human expansion. Humanity's colonial empire had been aggressive and relentless, pushing alien civilizations out of their home systems and claiming their worlds for human settlement. Dr. Kevin Moore, a historian who had joined the resistance, listened in amazement as Thexmar described the human empire at its height. Massive fleets of warships had patrolled trade routes between thousands of human colonies. Earth had been the center of a civilization that other species either served or feared. The aliens had been losing the war against humanity for decades. Human technology advanced faster than anything the Zephyrian species could develop. Human warships like the Sovereign had been nearly invincible, capable of destroying entire alien fleets without taking significant damage. Captain Rachel Stone, who had discovered she was descended from the original Admiral Stone, felt a mixture of pride and horror as she learned about her ancestors. Humans had been powerful, but they had also been conquerors who showed little mercy to the alien species they defeated. Thexmar explained that the conquest of Earth had been a desperate last-chance effort by the surviving alien species to prevent their complete extinction. The Zephyrian Confederacy had formed an alliance of refugee races that had nothing left to lose in their fight against human domination. The aliens had waited for the perfect moment to strike. Human civilization had been weakened by internal conflicts and civil wars. Different human factions had fought each other over territory and resources, dividing their forces at the worst possible time. When the Zephyrian alliance finally attacked, they had thrown everything they had into the assault. Every available ship, every weapon, every soldier had been committed to the battle for Earth. The aliens knew they would only get one chance to defeat humanity. Elena Rodriguez felt the ship's consciousness react to these revelations. Admiral Stone's memories began to surface as the AI processed the truth about the war. The ship had not been hiding from superior enemies but from desperate refugees who had managed to win through sheer numbers and timing. Thexmar revealed why Elena could interface so perfectly with the ship's systems. Human technology had been designed to work in harmony with human consciousness. The neural connection between humans and their machines had given them an advantage that no alien species could replicate. The Sovereign had not been just a warship but a command vessel designed to coordinate humanity's galactic empire. Its capabilities exceeded anything the Zephyrians had ever built, because it represented the pinnacle of human technological achievement during their golden age. Commander Jason Wright, who had been leading assault teams against Zephyrian installations, realized that humans had once been the aggressors in the galaxy. The roles had been completely reversed from what everyone believed. The aliens were not conquerors but survivors of human expansion. The revelation explained why the Zephyrians had worked so hard to suppress human knowledge and culture. They had been terrified that humans would rediscover their technological heritage and rebuild their empire. The aliens had spent 3 centuries trying to keep humanity weak and divided. Admiral Stone's memories became clearer as Elena's connection with the ship deepened. The AI recalled the final days of the human empire, when civil war had torn apart the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Internal conflicts had made humans vulnerable to their desperate enemies. Thexmar admitted that the Zephyrian victory had come at a terrible cost. Most of the alien species in the Confederacy had been reduced to small populations scattered across a few worlds. They had survived, but barely, and they lived in constant fear of human resurgence. The alien overlord made a final plea to the humans aboard the Sovereign. He begged them to remember the lessons of the past and choose a different path than their ancestors had taken. The galaxy could not survive another war between humans and aliens. Jake Morrison felt the weight of this knowledge settling on his shoulders. Humanity had the power to reclaim their empire and dominate the galaxy once again, but they also had the opportunity to create something better than what had existed before. General Kane studied the tactical situation with new understanding. The Zephyrian forces were not the overwhelming enemy they had appeared to be. They were actually the weaker party, ruling through fear and propaganda rather than genuine strength. Elena felt the ship responding to her emotions as she processed these revelations. The Sovereign systems were becoming more active as her understanding of human heritage grew. She was not just operating the ship, but becoming part of it in ways that frightened and amazed her. Lisa Carter examined the historical data that Thexmar had provided and confirmed its accuracy. The evidence was overwhelming that humans had once controlled a vast interstellar empire. The technology aboard the Sovereign was proof of capabilities that current humanity had forgotten. The resistance leaders faced a difficult choice. They could use their newfound knowledge and power to rebuild the human empire and seek revenge against the Zephyrians, or they could try to create a new kind of civilization that avoided the mistakes of the past. As the truth sank in, the humans aboard the Sovereign realized that they held the fate of the galaxy in their hands. The ship gave them the power to reshape civilization itself. The question was whether they would choose the path of their ancestors or forge a better future for all species. Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Sovereign as hundreds of human ships gathered around the massive supercarrier. The vessel that had once been hidden in an asteroid field now commanded a growing fleet of liberated humans from across the galaxy. The revolution had begun in earnest. Elena Rodriguez had become something more than human during her months bonded with the ship's consciousness. Her connection with the Sovereign allowed her to coordinate the activities of the entire human fleet simultaneously. She could sense every ship, every crew member, and every weapon system under their command. The ship's manufacturing systems had been working around the clock to produce new vessels for the human forces. Each new ship incorporated the advanced technology that had made humanity dominant centuries ago. The growing fleet was becoming more powerful every day. President Diana Bell had been elected by the freed human populations to lead the reformed human republic. She worked from a command center aboard the Sovereign, coordinating diplomatic efforts with alien species that wanted to join the fight against Zephyrian oppression. Ambassador Luke Carter discovered that many alien races had been secretly hoping for human resurgence. These species remembered the stability that human rule had brought to the galaxy, even if it had come at the cost of their independence. They preferred human leadership to Zephyrian chaos. The final confrontation began when the Zephyrian Confederacy assembled the largest fleet in galactic history. Every available ship from dozens of alien species was gathered in Earth's solar system. The aliens knew this would be their last chance to stop humanity's return to power. Elena felt the massive enemy fleet approaching through the Sovereign's sensors. The Zephyrian armada contained thousands of ships and represented the combined military might of every species in their confederacy. It was an impressive force, but she was not afraid. Admiral Stone activated the ship's most advanced weapon systems for the first time since the ancient war. Guns that could shatter planets emerged from hidden compartments throughout the Sovereign's hull. Energy shields that could deflect the power of entire stars surrounded the massive vessel. The battle for Earth began as the two fleets met in the space between Mars and Jupiter. The Zephyrian ships opened fire with everything they had, filling space with energy beams and explosive missiles. Their combined firepower could have destroyed entire star systems. But the human fleet was no longer the desperate resistance force that had hidden in the shadows for so long. The Sovereign's shields absorbed the enemy bombardment without taking any damage. The ancient human technology proved to be far superior to anything the aliens possessed. Elena coordinated the human response through her neural link with the ship. Human vessels appeared throughout the solar system using faster-than-light technology that the Zephyrians could not track. The aliens found themselves surrounded by enemies that seemed to move like ghosts. The Sovereign's main guns spoke for the first time in 3 centuries. Beams of pure energy lanced out across millions of miles of space and cut through the largest Zephyrian battleships as if they were made of tissue paper. Each shot destroyed targets that had taken decades to build. Human fighter squadrons swarmed through the enemy formations like schools of predatory fish. Their advanced technology allowed them to move faster and hit harder than anything the Zephyrians could deploy against them. Alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light throughout the battle zone. But Jake Morrison and Elena had learned from the revelations about humanity's past. They did not want to repeat the mistakes that had led to the original war. Instead of seeking total destruction of their enemies, they offered surrender and protection to alien crews who laid down their weapons. Many Zephyrian ships accepted the offer of mercy. Their crews had been fighting out of desperation rather than conviction. When they saw the overwhelming power of human technology, they chose survival over pointless resistance. High Overlord Thexmar sent a final message from his flagship before it was destroyed. He acknowledged that the age of Zephyrian rule was ending and expressed hope that humans would prove to be wiser, rulers than their ancestors had been. The battle ended within hours as the remaining Zephyrian forces surrendered or fled to the outer reaches of the galaxy. Humanity had reclaimed their home system and proved their technological superiority. But the real work was just beginning. President Bell immediately began implementing the new galactic order that the human leaders had planned. Instead of rebuilding an empire based on conquest and domination, they established a republic that offered membership to all species willing to live in peace. Ambassador Carter worked with representatives from dozens of alien species to create a new government structure. The human republic would be led by humans because of their technological advantages, but all species would have representation and protection under the new system. Elena used her connection with the Sovereign to coordinate relief efforts across the galaxy. Human ships carrying food, medicine, and technology began visiting worlds that had suffered under Zephyrian rule. The new human government was determined to prove itself through service rather than oppression. The liberated human populations threw themselves into the work of rebuilding civilization. Factories and shipyards that had been used to serve alien masters were converted to produce goods that would benefit all species. The galaxy began to prosper under human leadership. Jake Morrison found himself serving as the military commander of the new republic. His experience with both warfare and diplomacy made him valuable in maintaining peace while defending against remaining threats. The human fleet continued to grow, but its mission was protection rather than conquest. Dr. Lisa Carter led the scientific efforts to share human technology with other species. Instead of keeping their advantages secret, the humans chose to help their former enemies develop better lives. This generosity won the loyalty of countless alien populations. Admiral Stone continued to serve as the guardian of human knowledge and wisdom. The AI helped train new generations of human leaders who understood both the power and the responsibility that came with their technological heritage. Elena gradually learned to separate herself from the ship's consciousness while maintaining their connection. She became the bridge between human and artificial intelligence, helping to guide the development of new technologies that would benefit all galactic citizens. Years passed as the new Galactic Republic grew and prospered. Trade routes that had been disrupted by war reopened under human protection. Scientific research advanced rapidly as different species shared their knowledge and expertise. The galaxy had found peace under human leadership, but it was a different kind of peace than had existed during the ancient human empire. This new civilization was built on cooperation and mutual respect rather than fear and domination. Humanity had reclaimed their rightful place among the stars, but they had also learned from their past mistakes. The U.S. Sovereign continued to patrol the galaxy, no longer as a weapon of conquest but as a guardian of freedom and justice for all species fortunate enough to live under its protection.